Welcome to video 4 in this series about how my life's work, biotransformation theory, BTT, can help you engage fully in any crisis, but particularly the global pandemic and economic meltdown we're all facing. So, today in this video, we're going to look really at how transformation occurs. We're going to get deep into this transformation curve journey, understand what happens at each stage and the easy bits, the fun bits, the challenging bits, the scary bits. Because the more you know what happens, the more you can guide yourself, lead yourself along this transformation curve in the least stressful, least painful way. Not to say there won't be stress and pain. I think there's meant to be some of that stuff in transformation. It's not for free. You have to pay for it. But you can learn to relate to transformation with an emotional connection that allows you to encourage it in self, others, and the system. Now, really one important thing. There are no shortcuts. Any transformation, whether it's moments because you are so used to transforming yourself and unpacking patterns, dealing with pain and trauma, over here, reconnecting with yourself to find a new pattern, a new response, a new creative way of engaging, you still go along this curve. The curve can take a lot less time. That's the key to it all. And you can bring yourself along the most tricky bits because you know what to expect, so you can preempt it all. And with others, of course. But you still have to do this. There are hacks, but there are no shortcuts to transformation. You can't cheat what I think is the blueprint of transformation. So I believe this curve is the blueprint of all transformation in every system: an individual seed, a company, a startup, right up through to a nation or a global system. And I'll bring some examples of that in this video. So what's exciting to me about a transformation curve journey is that for whatever reason, and this is a metaphysical speculation, the universe, whatever you want to think of that thing as, the non-dual reality I believe we're all in, will seem to always bring us through, down, up and out of transformation if we allow it to occur. It seems to be something that our body minds want to do, know how to do, can do, and that always brings creativity into a space, possibility into a space where there seems to be none. Even if that means you are like Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp like Auschwitz, or you're like Jesus being hung up on the cross, there's always possibility to bring more of you into the world, more of your character and less of your personality. And that seems to be the nature of things. I'm not going to dwell too much on the speculation now. Next video, I'm going to bring in some more metaphysics into this conversation about what's happening here. But let's just go through what occurs on the transformation curve. So 7 steps. The 7th gem, really the crown jewel of the whole thing, is the transformation curve. 7 steps. I could make it 10, 3. Sometimes we talk about 4 phases. Sometimes in organizational and systemic change processes, transformation processes that I design and lead for our large clients, usually I talk about 6 steps. But for an individual looking at self-transformation, there are really 7 clear steps. So the first one is purpose. Before even deciding what crisis to engage in, what problem to look at, what to transform with our kids or with our loved one or with our community or with our church or with our retreat center, whatever. Check in with our purpose, which grounds us back into the why of why we're here. And I've written loads about purpose in other places, got videos on it on our website. There's even a purpose course. So I'm not going to go into it, but we just check back in with who we really are and what we feel we want to do, how we want to serve at the beginning of a transformation process. Sometimes you want to go on a transformation curve to find your purpose, at which point it would be an outcome. So you just check in with yourself, you take some time to reflect and connect. It's another way of thinking about it. And in that spaciousness that comes when we go inside, stop worrying about stuff out there, and we go inside, we get spaciousness between stimulus and response. We get some emptiness and some fullness. And with that, we can focus on a problem, a transformational problem, and resist the desire to treat it as a technical problem that we know the answer to, which is what happens when your partner asks you to listen to their problems at work, or your child wants to share with you something and you want to solve it because you think it's a technical problem. Bang, 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 gone. That's the box. Get rid of the problem. That's not what we want to do. We want to really dwell on the problem, understand it, reflect on it, and really try and go, what is this transformational problem for me, this transformational challenge? What am I being invited or called or initiated into a hero's journey to transform about myself and my world? And that's the problem. Then, as we talked about last time, we want to look at the patterns that we enact. So this is really a departure point, because most people want to transform the world out there. As Tolstoy said, everyone thinks of changing the world, no one thinks of changing themselves. And the key to the transformation curve is we don't go out there yet, we go in here, into ourselves. Now, if you're doing organizational innovation or company transformation or systemic transformation process, the same thing applies. You don't look at what causes the problem, poverty, or a customer need problem. Out there, you look at what do I do that isn't adapted, because if it was adapted, there wouldn't be a problem. If I was fully fitting my environment, the fast changing world, there wouldn't be a transformational problem or transformational challenge. So you're owning fully your showing upness, how you are around this problem, knowing that maybe there's a possibility, a way of behaving, a diamond-like way of behaving that will resolve the problem and bring you or your company or your system or your community or your family to a higher degree of fitting with the world, better, more thriving, and certainly surviving. So you look your patterns in the eye with fierce grace, with compassion for yourself and others, but not hiding away stuff either. Really in the midline between control and create. And you identify, hopefully, the 4 elements: your behaviors, your hands, your head, your heart, and your hara, which is that felt sense within. You can do this at any level of the system. Then you reflect deeper. Why does this pattern exist? What is it helping to protect me from feeling ever again? What trauma, pain, disappointment, letdown, loss, vulnerability is this trying to protect me from? And that's the pain. And it's only by allowing the pain to be there, maybe for the first time properly in our lives, without trying to change it or destroy it or get rid of it or ignore it or not feel it again, that the pattern can start to dissolve and liquefy. I'm going to share you really important stuff about that at the end of this video. Because what you don't want to do is re-traumatize yourself by bringing the pain into your memory, into your body, mind, without a different context. So, once we release the pain, we get to a feeling of absolute peace with ourselves and the world. A sense of equanimity and tranquility. And in that spacious peace, like a neutral, possibility emerges. Usually in the form of insights and ideas and intuitions. And we'll talk a little bit more about them in a future video, about how they show up, how our different forms of possibilities show up in our body mind, in our feelings, in our thoughts, etc. And then with that possibility, we need to rebuild ourselves, a new habit. Could be about food and fasting. It could be right up to a new consumer habit for 200 million people or a billion people. And we have to build power, new habits, build capacity, build commitment, resilience, and just develop the new habit over weeks, months, and usually years. So you could get to this process here in an hour if you really know what you're doing and how to lead transformation. You could get to here in 2 hours, but this bit takes days, weeks, months, because by the time you get here where it looks like just who I am, I'm just a creative, compassionate person, or my company's just super innovative, or our system is super thrivable and regenerative, there are a long period of time which no one talks to you that much about, which is just building the new thing, and you need a lot of resilience to get through here. So, as I said again in the last video, I'm going to reiterate it because it's the key to life, really, and leadership, and innovation, and transformation, is that you can't get to the possibility without releasing the pattern and the pain. You can't get till you give up. And the challenge of transformation is actually giving up. That's why there's so many stages here, because if you nail this bit, if you become a master at transforming a problem through understanding your patterns and relieving the pain, the trauma, the wounding, this bit just happens really easily. What we call rise to thrive happens naturally when you know how to release into peace, how to release all this stuff over here. This is the hard bit for an individual. Coaching or healing someone over here is getting them to here. For an organization, if you're doing innovation or transformation work, I used to think I was helping companies and government departments and charities have ideas and build them into the world. Actually, this is the hard bit, getting to a point where they can let go of old assumptions, old business models, old systemic change initiatives, old policies, political ideas of left and right, so they can actually allow newness to emerge. And it always emerges if you can get people or yourself into this area. And in fact, I think I said this in one of the videos, down here people get this sense of flow states down here. Another term that a psychologist, F.W. Myers, coined over a century ago is what he called a subliminal uprush. This feeling that something's coming through me, not necessarily it's me, which is another way of thinking about creative flow. And this has been now researched in so many different places that authors and artists and what J.S. Bach, right to Isabel Allende, both said something to the effect of, I don't create the ideas, they come through me. And in the next video, I'm going to tell you more about that uprush, which feels amazing. It's the aha, it's the epiphany, it's the excitement, but you don't get any of it until you can let go of this stuff. To some degree. You can be creative and you can get there through like an art project or whatever, but one of the things that you realize in self-creativity, auto-poetic creativity, self-transformation, is you need to master this descent, the negative path, the via negativa, before you get the via positiva, the creative path of light, of excitement, of rebirth, of breakthrough. Going down here, we have to lose things. And now, at the moment, in the pandemic we face, we're having to lose quite a lot of things. Convenience, comfort, friendships, like hanging out, possibly our livelihoods, possibly our jobs. And in any transformation, there's something to lose. And the loss can be so difficult for us to bear. And our body mind is geared towards not losing things, particularly when we feel threatened. And we don't want to lose money, our income, our convenience, our livelihoods, our travel, etc. But in every transformation, there's an invitation to lose something, but lose it with grace, with courage, with commitment. Maybe grieve it, allow it to be lost in a positive way, sort of consciously uncouple from that. So, for example, if your business is based upon traveling around the world on an airplane, to have a climate-ready economy, to have a positive, regenerative capitalism, we might have to lose that. And that might be quite a lot for some people to deal with. But whatever it is, you have to lose something. I can guarantee it. So the invitation is to become really aware of that, because you lose convenience, but you gain fittedness, you gain matching this reality. Now, to be really clear, in environments, contexts, ecosystems, ecologies that aren't changing quickly, you don't need to do this so much. Just carry on doing what you're doing. It's working now, it's probably working, will work in 10 years. But we don't live in that world. We're living in such a fast changing reality that we're constantly being invited to adapt. And this is really the way adaptation occurs in conscious human beings, I believe. Now, some really important things to watch out for. Because we don't like descending into ourselves, into our deep materials, into our pain and suffering, and we don't really like giving up stuff either that we found quite useful and convenient, there's a massive urge on this side of the curve. And even some points when we're over here and the new is happening, but it's not established yet, our careers haven't had the uplift, our book isn't published, our business isn't fully making a living, whatever, where we want to go into some of these patterns. So there's three really big ones that happen down here I want you to watch out for. So they all form of the same thing, which is going back to how it was up here. Because, you know what, it wasn't so bad, I want to get over here again. So the most pernicious form of that is the make it great again fallacy. The idea that globalization, for example, hasn't been good for a lot of people, particularly working class white people in the US and the UK. And so let's make Britain or America great again by trying to get back to this mythical time, which wasn't actually that good for most people anyway, particularly if you were not white, maybe not a man, maybe not old. And that's the make it great again fallacy. But we all have that. So even the last few weeks, I've been slipping into, can it just go back to having those nice juicy projects and keynotes and having my team coming. It was all great. That world has gone. No matter what a crisis you're dealing with, the old world is dying. It's dissolving away. And you can either be part of that, you can go with that flow, or you can fight it, but it doesn't really matter because it's dissolving away. So that's watch out for the make it great again, whatever version of that you have. Make capitalism great again, make hedge funds great again, whatever, make Republicans or Democrats great again. Then you have the escape fantasy, which is maybe I could just get out of this whole thing totally. And I'm going to go to another company. I'm going to move back to Wuhan because they're now opening up for business. I'm going to move to the countryside. I'm going to move to the city. Just watch out the desire to escape the whole thing by this fantasy of how something's going to be better when you don't have to do the transformation. But as we know, you bring yourself with you. We bring our patterns with us. We bring our pain with us wherever we go. So the transformation curve will just wait for us wherever we end up. If we try and get the new husband or wife before the old one leaves, and we've done the work of our marriage, or we try and get the new job before the old job, we'll just bring the patterns and the pain with us. And the curve will just sit there waiting for us and cause us probably pain and suffering while we don't attend to it. That's the escape fantasy. And another one that I've noticed really happening to me in the last few weeks of this crisis, and I think a lot of people, is this, we're going to go on this transformation, and up here there's going to be this natural regenerative system with capitalism gone or replaced or better, and everyone's going to be sort of living the good life and in connection with nature, and we're just going to have more time to be, and we're going to be indigenously wise with whatever that thing is, this idyll that we have, this fantasy. That's not what's going to be up here either. I can guarantee that. I definitely believe we can use this crisis and the coming crises of pollution and climate change, etc., to transform ourselves, our companies, and our system to get somewhere up here. But it will be something that transcends this reality, but it also includes lots of these ingredients. It won't be blissful and a panacea for everything. It will have its problems, because then it will have to go on another one as the world changes, and another one. And that's just the nature of things. So watch out for the sort of fantasy of the idyll. Okay, so this is the curve. Now, as well as trying to escape up the left-hand side away from this area of deep transformation, of accepting and releasing our pain and trauma and wounding. And by the way, we're all experiencing collective pain and trauma and wounding from modernity, from capitalism, from ancestors who were abused, beaten up, whether in pogroms in Eastern Europe, whether indentured servants or serfs in Russia or Ireland, or slaves in America. We're all dealing with a lot of collective trauma and collective pain right now. And a lot of people want to escape that. It's not, control and protect mode is the last thing it wants to do. And also, just so we're really clear, the last thing control and protect mode wants to do is relieve its box, because the box is what it thinks our life is. And this is something really fascinating about transformations. We have to allow the protector or control and protect mode to not be scared of its own death, the dissolution of the box, in order for us to truly live and to have breakthrough, to have rebirth. And this, in some traditions, is called the death of the ego, which our ego tries to stop everything. It will stop us going to retreats or have coaching. It will get us out of places where it thinks we're going to have to dissolve it, the box. And always remember there's something underneath the box, or outside of the box, or bigger than the box. And that's our character, our true essence, rather than our ego. So as we approach this area here, we get to what's called in systems theory, the edge of chaos. Let's do it in orange. So around here is the edge of chaos. And the edge of chaos is this period which we are in maximum creativity, maximum possibility, creativity, ideas, etc., but also maximum confusion. The old is breaking down, but the new hasn't quite formed. There's stuff breaking down, there's stuff breaking through, but it's not safe, it's not secure, we're not sure of what to do next. And it's really the doozy of transformation, is being able to navigate ourselves through the edge of chaos. Having the epiphany, which is kind of the easy bit, the aha, the yeah, I got it. And then, is that really it? Is that what I'm supposed to do right now? Am I supposed to do this video series rather than go and hustle some online leadership programs? That's the edge of chaos. And you can see this happening in every level of the system. So J.G. Ballard, the novelist, wrote about the shift from British rule and Japanese taking over Singapore in World War II. And he wrote that the actual camps, the internment camps, were actually quite structured and ordered. When things started getting really nasty, the sort of human condition coming up of, robbing and murder and mayhem, etc., was when the camps were dissolved and there was chaos. It was collapse of the old, but there was no leaders. There were no people saying, but we can get through here and there's something much better here. Same thing in the Arab Spring. So you had a pretty brutal dictator in Egypt, for example, Mubarak, and there was a big uprising, sort of a subliminal uprush of possibility of democracy, and they got rid of Mubarak and they had this democratic government, but the whole system of Egypt hadn't developed all the institutions and the processes up here for democracy. Right? And so what happened is they got down here and it was super messy, because education is always super messy. And without transformational leadership, which is one of the key areas I work in, to say, listen, don't worry, I don't have the answer, but I know the process and I know I can hold you. I can hold this country, and we've got some practices and some tools and some procedures that can get us around the edge of chaos and out again. And don't worry, it's going to be tough building the new, but we can do it, etc., etc., etc. What actually happened is they went back up here. They actually went to a leader now in Egypt, which you could say is actually even more authoritarian and repressive than the old one, because what people don't like is chaos. Our body minds, our brains don't like it. It's terrifying for us. And that's why an innovator, a transformational leader, whether that's for yourself or for your family or for the world, needs to be able to get people through this point and up the other side. What I call through, up and out. And so the way of thinking about this is, we don't know the answer to what's going to happen here, but we know the process, the pathway and the practices. And that's why I teach this whole theory, because it's basically pathway, processes, practices, some methodology to do this in any human endeavor. So you get up here, but I can't give you the answer what up here is for you. And that's why beware of people, experts, who tell you how it's going to be in a year's time or 5 years' time, and how capitalism is going to be. I have my opinions, but we have to live it. We have to go through it and let it unfold through our body minds, our wetware of our body minds. And on this process, we need to have a not knowing, what the Buddhists call beginner's mind, not knowing the answer, rather than, I know the answer, which is what this wants to do, control and protect mode. I've got the answer. It's going to be this. So you'll see all these articles right now about how it's going to be. No one really knows. It's speculation. Useful and insightful. It opens up ideas for our sense-making ourselves. But it's definitely not going to be like that exactly. And the poet Keats wrote in a letter, the perfect man, the perfect creative person would have what he called negative capability. Not positive capability, but negative capability to go down here and not know the answer and not jump to conclusions. Another Russian proverb says, jump to an answer, you might as well jump in the river. So watch yourself wanting to go from here to here and not do this difficult, chaos, messy, healing, and not knowing, possibly for days, weeks, even months not knowing. Because then we can go through, up and out. So there's a tendency to want to go back to the great yesterday, this mythic time in our past, and we actually have to. There's no alternative to find the great tomorrow. And just to sort of riff on that, there's a great invitation. And this crisis, this pandemic, is a great invitation to you, to me, and to every human being on this planet to go on this journey for ourselves and maybe our cities, our companies, and our global reality of 7 whatever billion people, to find out what the great tomorrow for us could be. Because if we try and do what we've done in the past, which is return to here, quantitative easing, give loads of money to banks, give loads of money to companies who then for the next 10 years grow, but they grow by giving their wealth to a very few number of people, rather than working out how to take that money from all that free or cheap debt that was given in the last 2008 recession. We just end up in the same crisis again. Nothing's actually really tangibly changed in our system. Not much anyway. So it's common in any transformation process or experience to find pleasant some parts of it. Maybe the beginning, I'm going on a retreat, I'm going to go and do a 10-day virtual transformation program, whatever. I'm going to do on a company innovation program. We're going to do transformation. And it's also great to be here. We've done something, we nailed it. Everyone thinks our book project, new behavior in the family is awesome, and we're getting all the kudos. And also sometimes here is really fun and exciting. We're having this flow of, I'm in the zone, I'm channeling, I've just got a download. And then here, and here particularly, it can be super gnarly. But I honestly believe that's the point. Because if we stay the same person we are here, and we aren't having to grow through loss and strength of new strengths, we can't become the person, the transformational human, the transformational leader who can bring this new possibility to the world. And the world is not sitting there waiting for it, going, hey, where's this new disruptive transformational capitalism or this new whatever. It just wants to go back to where it was. So we have to build the new, whilst the old dissolves, usually ahead of that curve, because that's why we're transformational people. And most people want to resist it or challenge it or ignore us. And you've heard the sayings around that. And so there's some super gnarly bits, but the gnarly bits are the point, because that's where we grow. That's where we become bigger and bolder versions of ourselves. Not necessarily more like a crush it Silicon Valley innovator, more like a vulnerable, have been broken, have rebuilt myself over and over, and I am standing here the best I can be, full of flaws, full of failures, full of disappointments, and still yet I am here bringing something through me into the world that I believe the world is seeking us to bring into it. The universe wants us to bring into being. And discerning that, being an egotistical entrepreneur versus truly a servant, conscious leader, conscious innovator, is one of the great challenges. In the next video, I'm going to talk all about those inner guidances. Because what we want to do here is we don't want to just bring our vision. We want to bring a shared vision into being, but totally owning our power as an individual. We're not all about the individual. We're not all about some kind of solidarity of the whole, the collective, and the potential for the tyranny of consensus and community that you see in communism and socialism sometimes. I am an individual. I'm together as a whole with everyone. And between the two, in the midline, I can be part of bringing something to being that might come through me as if it's my idea. It might come through me from a team as if it's our idea, or our company, or our community, or our movement. But really it's what the universe is seeking to have emerge. And all we have to do is listen and support it. So a great question to ask is, how can I support what is seeking to emerge in this crisis, in this pandemic? For me, my loved ones, my country, my community, and the whole. So on this journey, this can be really terrifying down here, and I'm not going to shortchange you by pretending it isn't. This is work, this is commitment, this is real dedication. But it's also the most beautiful thing I've ever known. That's why it's my whole life's work. And I started off doing innovation work, doing medical work as a medic, as an atheist, committed, ardent, science-loving, scientismist atheist who rejected all religion and all new agery, all spirituality, dolphins and patchouli, and chimes and incense, all of it. But through a lot of humbling and a lot of stumbling and a lot of pain and suffering as an individual, as a company leader, entrepreneur, in relationships, I came to the conclusion, and I write about this in my book, Spiritual Atheist, that though I definitely made the right choice to release all religious rules of any type, political and organized religious rules, the only experience I've felt that's bigger than the pain of our trauma being relived and the pain and suffering of being alone, and having to lose stuff that we think is valuable and important for our survival. The only experience I've ever had that's bigger than that is the experience of love, slash connection, slash unity we have when we go inside and we reconnect with our true nature in this universe, as one with the universe. Back to the first principle, the first gem, the unified mind and body, but also that mind and body unified with all things, the ground of all being. What's down here is the universe and all its possibility, all its potential, all its power. And this is what we call spiritual, but I don't mean New Age, or I don't mean necessarily all the things that you might think that means. I mean a recognition, a re-awareness, a awakening, a realization that we are one with everything. And that sense of connection, reconnection, most often people say they feel like it's love. That's the human word, the word we use as a metaphor to bring a feeling of connection to words, poetry, to language. But you could use unified, unity, a sense of the absolute, a sense of peace and tranquility. Doesn't really matter what word you use, doesn't matter how you get there. We've all got reconnection practices, washing up through to 10-day silent retreats. But that feeling we get when we stop trying to go out to the world and solve everything and stop feeling the analytical separation consciousness of this mode and dance in the cosmic connective consciousness of this mode, we get a feeling that's so big that it can help us release any pain and suffering and trauma, bring any memory up of awful things that happened to us, and allow them to be grieved, to cry, to release into something bigger. And that's why I said at the beginning of this video, you can't really do the transformation curve, not really, without that thing. And you can call it anything you like. I use the word spiritual because it's the term, but it's an S word that I find very challenging. A lot of people find very challenging. But I come out of the S closet, the spiritual closet, to fully say, I don't believe you can get round the deepest transformation curves of our lives when we become purposeful, when we become awake, become parents, become great leaders, without something bigger than the feeling of fear and loneliness and loss and atomization and separation that occurs as we really bring our pain and suffering and wounding into the world up for our awareness. And the three great leaders that everyone always talks about being the great transformational leaders of countries were all committed spiritual or wisdom teachers or wisdom practitioners. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Nelson Mandela. A lot of them were influenced by each other, a lot of them were by Tolstoy, and some of his work, not as a novelist, but as a spiritual wisdom teacher. And I came to that realization myself. So this is me fully coming out of the spiritual closet again, by saying that is the bit that makes the difference for the full transformation. And we can have it within a religion, like Martin Luther King. We can have it totally agnostic. We can have it totally secular, what I call spiritual atheist. That feeling, which has come from practice, doesn't come from reading a book or believing in a God necessarily. It comes from practice of going inside, is the bit that allows the transformation to occur. And from a biological point of view, what we're basically saying is you are shifting from being dominated by fear, pain, memories, that we might call trauma, separation, the anxiety from separation, when we separate from our parents, separate from the womb, come out of the womb, which locks us in these patterns. And then if we want these diamond-like creative thoughts, transformational ideas, etc., that transform the world, we need to have reconnection. This is the sort of biological version of this metaphysical idea. So, to finish off, we're going to do a reconnection practice. So this practice comes from the Polynesian, Hawaiian traditions of wisdom. And I do a version of it. It's called the Ho'oponopono practice. It was taught to me by one of my friends, colleagues, teachers, healers called James Hyman in LA. And it's something that I now have developed in my own work and with my wife's work in biotransformation theory. And this Ho'oponopono practice basically is there to really connect us on this journey in this reconnection field. And I'm going to just do a short version with you, and you can take it if you want it. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes again if you want to, and just settle your body, mind, your nervous system into this moment. And if you're used to reconnecting, just allowing that reconnection process, the relaxation response discovered at Harvard, to open you up. And the process is so simple, it's just 3 sentences. So I'm going to start just showing you the sentences. So, thank you, I love you. Just thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. So I'm sorry, please forgive me. Help me. Show me the way. Help me. Show me the way. Now you can talk like this to your partner or your parents, yourself. You can talk like this to your protector, your connector, your control mode or your create mode, or to the universe as a whole in that I-thou relationship, that dialogue between you and your universe, our universe, between your small self and our great self, the great we and the little me. Any version of that, or all versions maybe, are happening at the same time. So I'll just take you through a specific variant of it. So, speaking to our protector within, the force of survival, of getting stuff done, of dealing with life, of dealing with pain and disappointment. Protector, thank you. I love you. I appreciate everything you've done, all the work, all the strength you've shown, even though I've often blamed you. Maybe no one's ever said thank you to you before, so thank you. I love you. So allow that thanks, that gratitude and that love to come through your whole body, all that protective energy, control and protect. No matter what it's done to diminish you or others, to sabotage you, it's there for a reason. That box is there, so thank you. I love you. And then I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Forgive me for blaming you, for trying to change you, destroy you with spiritual practices. I'm sorry, please forgive me. And you can feel with that sentence this vulnerability and this humility and this, I don't have to puff myself up. I can just be fragile. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And then protector, help me, show me the way. Do you have any insights, ideas, intuitions, information, instinct for me? And then moving to the connective force within, the connective consciousness, create and connect mode, the connector, or the universe as a field, a force, a system. Thank you. I love you. You might find yourself joining with that force, with that sentence, becoming one with this connective energy, this inner shaman, inner guru. It's probably had you watch this video this long, because your protector probably thought it was rubbish or didn't like me or my shirt, whatever. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for ignoring your insights and intuitions, for shutting down wisdom and possibility and love and connection. And then help me. I'm ready. Show me the way. Help me, I'm ready. Show me the way. And then listen. Does the connector have something it suggests you do after you finish watching this vid? My invitation would be just to do it without stopping. Maybe just double discern that it's really there, clear, and it's not your protector secretly. Do this, do that. Make sure it would bring more connection, more love, more integrity, hope into the world. Just keep your eyes closed, or you can slowly open them. I just want to read this sentence that one of the inspirations, founders of Black Lives Matter, the movement, wrote as a kind of guiding force for the movement. I'm not saying I agree with all of it, but it's something for us to reflect on in this, what is seeking to emerge. As a transformational person, as a transformational leader, provide hope and inspiration for collective action. Up the transformation curve, to build collective power to achieve collective transformation. Through, up and out of the transformation curve. Rooted in grief and rage, but pointed towards vision and dreams. That's the rage of the protector. That's the grief of the connector. I'm not saying I agree exactly with that language, but that energy of wanting to change things, of outrage at the way the world has become, but channeling it into positive hopes because you're tempering it with your connector, with your love. So if you've opened your eyes, open your eyes. Let's reconnect back here for a moment before the end of this video. Allowing all normal sensations to return to your body, but keeping that nuance of that connection, of that softness, that humility that allows things to come through us, whatever that may mean to you, whatever that means for your metaphysics, for insight and intuition to come to guide us to the next stage. And the next video I'll talk much more about that guidance.